Chapter 2. In the end, Mom decided to give me away for adoption. It had many benefits. The first thing, which was the best, was that she didn't have to become a mother. She was terribly afraid of becoming a mother. The other thing was that she could postpone any major decisions. And she argued with herself, it would also be better for the kid because if she didn't get an abortion, the kid would survive. Life could be pretty awesome from time to time, but it would not be awesome if she had this kid. So she had to give it to somebody else. That was the most responsible thing she could do. So for 7 months, she just pretended like this whole thing with the baby didn't exist. There were moments when she forgot that she was pregnant. She probably would have forgotten it completely if it had not been for the fact that the owner withdrew the possibility to drink free alcohol at the bar. When the staff came in to protest, he just said, "Well, it doesn't apply to all of you, just Alice."
"Why me?"
"Because you're pregnant. Alcohol is bad for the baby."
"Oh, yeah, that's fair."
"Sucks to be you,"
Sarah said, as they walked out, leaving Alice alone in the office.
"This is none of your business."
"Perhaps not," the owner said, "but I'm doing it anyway." So in one single go, Mom's alcohol consumption dropped like 75%. Other times when she was drinking, one of her colleagues would come up to her and knock down the glass from her hand, so the beer splashed out over the floor, and then they just said, "Pregnant!" This happened so many times that Mom felt sorry for herself.
Why do I have to stop drinking?
She tapped up a beer when her colleague went to the bathroom. Then she left drunk Harry in charge of the bar and sneaked into the storage room, where she drank the beer very fast, till she heard something moving, turned on the lights, and got so frightened that she dropped her beer. When she realized that 2 guests were making out on a beer keg, then she had to fetch a mop to wipe up all the beer that had splashed out on the floor. Of course, my mom realized that she had to stop drinking eventually. But it wasn't that easy. When she was the most desperate, she felt like, fuck this, I'll get an abortion. That way I can go on drinking. But then she heard my father's accusing voice. "The only reason you have any money to pay the bills is 'cause you drink for free at the bar. You would put us on the street if you'd choose between alcohol and the bills." Did her baby really have to die just so that she could continue to drink? Was she really that pathetic? I guess that was the biggest difference between Mom and Dad. Dad was very spontaneous and never thought about the consequences, but Mom had a very strong sense of responsibility. And for exactly that reason, she didn't want anything that required responsibility. She flipped out and started screaming when Dad came home from a pet store with the cutest puppy, because she knew Dad would get bored after 2 weeks, and then she had to take care of it. And she didn't want any kids because she knew that it was a lot of work. But now that she had one growing inside of her, what could she do? She promised herself to try, at least. So she worked sober in the bar. And I don't know if you have ever been the only one sober at a party, but it is a really, really empty feeling. "Don't you worry," drunk Harry said. "If it was my baby inside of you, I would never force you to stop drinking."
"Thank you, drunk Harry,"
Mother said, tapping up beer in the bar. "You know what? Let me buy you a beer."
No, it's fine."
"But I want to. Come on. You have been so good not drinking. You deserve it. And if I don't give you a beer, I'm just gonna drink it myself. You know how it is. I never leave the bar with money in my pockets. Otherwise, I just have to walk home and think about how I could not afford to pay child support for my son this month either."
"Well, okay then,"
Mom said, like, if you insist, and tapped up a big beer for herself. "To not drinking about tomorrow."
"To not thinking about tomorrow."
Mom took a big gulp until one of her colleagues walked by, slapped the glass out of her hand, and yelled, "Pregnant!" The problem was that she did not know for how long she had been pregnant. I mean, she knew roughly, but since she never went to any ultrasounds or medical examinations, those were things you did if you actually cared about the child, she was mostly guessing. So when she was about 7 months pregnant, she was absolutely sure that she would give birth really soon, which made her panic a little bit. She had not prepared anything. How did she solve it? Well, she postponed the problem until the next week. even though she of course knew that she could avoid a lot of problems if she simply did it right away. The next week, she freaked out even more. She was so close to postponing it again, but told herself that no, you have to do it, so she called an adoption agency. She was so nervous. The woman on the phone was actually very nice, but explained that the waiting time to get an adoption parent through their agency, on average, was 15 years.
15 years? How the hell can it be 15 years? Well, we have a long waiting list,
She said.
The people who want to give away their children for adoption outnumber the people that want to adopt by 1,000 to 1. It is common that the parents sign up for the waiting list as soon as the child is born, and then they have to wait until we find a suitable adoptive parent. It takes about 14, 15, sometimes 16 years. So do you want to sign up on our waiting list?
Mom hung up and called another adoption agency.
Oh, I am sorry,
The new adoption coordinator said.
we don't have any people who want to adopt right now.
And then she said, I swear, this is exactly what she said.
You should have called last week. Last week we had this couple that wanted to adopt some kids. Really? Yeah, I think they wanted to get cheap labor for their farm, so they adopted a couple of kids. You think they still want to adopt some kids? No, it was like a one-time thing. Won't happen again. But that is actually quite smart,
She said.
You could adopt 200 kids, let them work in a factory sewing clothes that you could sell. Would be extremely cheap, since you don't have to pay any salaries. I wonder why no one has ever thought about that before.
At the next adoption agency, a man answered. Mom was getting pretty desperate by now, and cried out her fear that she would have to raise her child after all. And I don't think he realized it, but he had the least soothing voice you could possibly imagine. Screaming, high-pitched, like he had to scream to hear himself speak.
Don't you worry.
The guy screamed with his high-pitched voice.
Everything is going to be fine. Are you sure?
Mom said mockingly. One advantage of her screaming was that he could hear her.
Yes, we offer one of the shortest waiting times in the industry. Just 10 years.
Really? Only 10 years? That is amazing. I've never heard of a better deal.
Mom screamed and hung up the phone. Eventually, she called up again, when she realized that actually was the best deal. But then it was some other woman that answered the phone.
Well, just wanted to let you know that we blah 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 do home visits and extensive background checks to make sure the adoptive parents do not have any history of alcoholism or drug problems. What's wrong with alcohol?
Mom interrupted the woman.
What? I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with alcohol. I mean, have you tried it? It's great, and everybody knows the greatest danger with alcohol in kids is that you shouldn't drink during the pregnancy, otherwise you're fine. As long as you don't give the kids any alcohol before their 12th birthday and don't drink and drive at the same time, but otherwise you're fine. No, I didn't say that I wanted my kid to grow up with alcoholics. Oh yeah? You know what? Fuck it. Yeah, I do want my kid to grow up with alcoholics. There must be a ton of alcoholic couples out there that have tried to make a baby for years, but they can't because the guy is too drunk to get his dick up. I want you to give my child to one of those couples.
Then she hung up.